Good morning, one and all. Well, that was a close run thing. It was a very tight squeeze. That was. What are we? Well, it's nearly 11 o'clock here. No, it isn't. I've done a full start. I've just responded to a countdown that was wrong, so I'm going to keep talking anyway. Obviously here live at Intermat. Obviously nobody's here yet because I'm 5 minutes ahead of schedule, so please try to ignore the full start. Probably just as well, really, because 5 minutes, about 10 minutes ago, I was speaking to the founder of Steel Wrist, Stefan Stockhouse, talking about the Open S Alliance, and we will be featuring that more in a future episode, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, I'm just going to basically wait for people to arrive because I am very, very early. Looks like people have just started to arrive. Obviously, Gary Muirhead is now in action, I would imagine, so I'm not expecting to see him on the show today because it is, there we are, I need those as well. It is the opening day of Scott Plant. I'm obviously here in Paris for the Intermat show. Can't make it to Scott Plant because obviously commitments here. But yeah, Gary is up there, and I'm sure there will be a fair few other people. I think Dan Cullen is headed up there. I'm not sure if it's going to be today or later on in the week. So everybody that's visiting or exhibiting at Scott Plant, hope you have a fantastic show. Have to say, today is looking really, really good here at Intermat. The sun is shining. It's a lot warmer out in the aisles, as you can see. I'm in summerish attire. So yes, going very, very well. Already been round, and we've filmed so far today a couple of films with Komatsu, a couple with Steel Wrist. We've got another one from Volvo in the bag. All of those will be coming to you at some point in the very near future. Mark Whiting, good morning to you, Mark. I realised the show shouldn't have started. The countdown advised me wrongly, so I pressed the go live button, and lo and behold, I was 5 minutes early. But good morning, Mark. Hope you're fitting well. Where are you watching from today? Obviously, I've already mentioned it, but I will say it again. I'm over in Gay Parry. Lovely pizza last night, by the way. Should you be interested. I do need to very quickly, while all this is going on, yes, I have got my new question of the day, and I'll be using that in just a moment once the hordes arrive. This is the first time I think I've ever actually been live, been early from my own live stream. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? 2 days into the proper show, and I've already lost the plot. So yeah, I'm just fudging for the moment while everybody realises that the show has already begun. Yeah, just making sure everything's in order. It was, as I say, if for those of you just arriving, it was a bit of a rush start. I had an opportunity to do an interview with Stefan Stockhouse, the founder of Steel, or one of the founders of Steel Wrist. So dashed over there to do that, which left me about 5 minutes away, a 5-minute walk away from where I needed to be to do this show. And lo and behold, it went on a little bit longer than it should have done, and there you are. All of a sudden, I was 5 minutes late. There we are. Mark Whiting is in Tipton. Tipton, yes, up in the Black Country. Do you have a Black Country accent, Mark? Love to know. I know my mate John Woodward is around, who used to live around that way. He certainly is. And there's my other half. Good morning, my beloved Ruth. Good morning. Happy. As you can tell, I'm early. What is the time? I'm not due to start for another minute, and here I am, already babbling away. I'll probably have to start the show again when people arrive, won't I? Just to get us back in order. Really should read the screen a little bit better, but I was doing the pre-show with these glasses on when I really should have been wearing those so I could see what I was doing. And the show came up with a 5-minute warning, which I thought was a go live warning. So I went live. There was nobody here. First time it's ever happened. Even from the back of the founding shows, there was always somebody here whenever I went live. But yeah, there we are. And the numbers have started to rack up. So everybody, where are we? It is now. It is almost 11 o'clock here in Gay Parry. Good morning. Good morning. Not that I know of, Mark. I bet it sounds like you have to me. Yeah, we're just talking about black country accents, but yeah, let's move on, shall we? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the scene a little bit better. Let's re-roll the intro, shall we? Yeah, good morning to Footy, who has just joined us at the right time. Footy, I apologise. I started 5 minutes early by accident entirely. I don't know quite how that happened, but I did start 5 minutes early. Welcome everybody. I hope you're all having a very good day. I certainly am. As I was saying to those that were here before the show started, I think we've got 5 videos in the bag already from Intermat today. So yeah, going great guns. Some fantastic kit out there. Really interesting stuff. I've been talking Open S Alliance with Stefan Stockhouse from Steelers this morning, and starting to see the arrival of the OEMs in the Open S Alliance. Wacker Neuson, Volvo, among others. I think once the OEMs start to buy into the Open S Alliance ethos, I think that will start to clarify things, and I think it will largely force other manufacturers of quick couplers and tilt rotators to actually start to take note. Now, much to my surprise, Gary Muirhead is actually here. I tell you what, switching glasses because I can't see a bloody thing. Let's have a look. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys. From a sunny Scotland. You've actually got time to speak to me from sunny Scotland. Well, thank you very much indeed, Gary. Glad you've got the sunshine. I was getting a little bit worried. There was a few people here the other day who were saying they were going from here to Scotland, but they had concerns over the weather. Lo and behold, he's got the sunshine. Good news. Let's have a look. Footy says, how's the tabs and those steps? Have you said anything about the ladder yet? I've been speaking to lots of people about ladders and stuff. I tell you what I saw today, and I will start the show in just a moment, but one thing I saw today, been over speaking to one of the product specialists from Komatsu's factory in Germany, where they make their wheeled excavators. And, you know, everybody talks about having ground level access to all your key maintenance points. Well, on the PW168 and the PW198, it's not quite ground level. So what they've actually done, they've actually put in a fold out step. So if you're doing your morning checks and everything else and dipping your oil and what have you, you just pull out a step, stand on it, do your bits, put it away again. Bob's your uncle. Good to go. Been very, very good. Very, very interesting innovation there. And I realise it's not a major innovation. You know, it's not hydrogen fueled, it's not electric, it's not laser driven. But from a practicality point of view, I think very good indeed. Jim Turner's just joining us as well. Says good morning. And Joe Westman from Steel Wrist says good morning, guys. Well, I'll tell you that Stefan Stockhouse says good morning, guys, as well. Also from Steel Wrist. As I say, I was with him not 10 minutes ago. Literally had to dash from Steel Wrist, which is about, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe a bit more that way, and I've had to dash over here, and dashed a bit too quickly because I went live 5 minutes early, which is a stupid idea. Footy says that's a good idea for wheel diggers. What about track machine? Not quite so straightforward. As I say, every manufacturer I've spoken to, I have raised the issue. All of them except, I've not had anybody come back and say you're talking nonsense. I think everybody accepts that it is a challenge, but it's a challenge that still needs some fixing. So, Footy, watch this space. If you suddenly start to see manufacturers offering ladders with their machines, you'll know where it started. Obviously, it started with you, and I've communicated it. Lou Kahn is here in the house. Good morning, Lou. Hope you're fitting well. Let's have a look. Who else we've got? Not radical, but definitely a step in the right direction, says Jim Turner. Yeah, a step in the right direction. Well played, sir. Yeah, no, as I say, I mean, I think I've been thinking a lot about this while I've been walking around the show, trying to get a handle on, you know, the key themes. Obviously, Intermat were very keen to make the themes digitization and sustainability and that kind of thing, all of which is absolutely fine. But, you know, the manufacturers don't necessarily need to follow the lead of the exhibition. There is a lot of electric equipment here. There's a hydrogen fueled ADT on the Volvo stand as well, only in prototype form. There's some very, very sexy, sort of forward-thinking, forward-looking prototype machines. But it is little steps like that I think is... those are the ones that make the difference, particularly to the operator. I'm going to say good morning, or I'm going to say good bonjour to Andy Hare. Good morning to you. Luke Carlin says, it is I, Leclerc. Yeah, it is I, Leclerc, indeed. Yes, good moaning, should I say. Footy says, the only other thing they could do is have a hydraulic ram, so when you open the door, the steps actually come out from under the undercarriage. All well and good, but that is going to add to the cost of the machine, and how many, I realise that you as operators would like that. I'm sure even those that are completely able-bodied, young and fit, would probably appreciate that, but that's an additional cost. Are the owners of the machines actually willing to pay that additional cost? That will be your question. So now, having said all of that and I've been going for 10 minutes. You've only been here for 5, but I've been going for 10 minutes. So let's play the intro and start as we mean to go on. Good morning. It is Thursday, the 25th of April, 2024, and I'm in Paris. In today's show, we've got Intermat themed product and content from the likes of Komatsu and Volvo. We're also going unplugged with Yanmar, and we've got some hot news is in as well from Leica, plus a whole lot more besides. But before we get to all that, I do need to show you today's question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, now, I'm not going to get involved in this because, frankly, I rely upon their sponsorship and their advertising money. But do you have a least favourite equipment brand? I think we all secretly have our favourites. I'll make no bones about the fact that I'm a bit of a Liebherr. I've got a soft spot for Liebherr, soft spot for Volvo as well, for Bobcat, and many others besides. But do you have a least favourite? Is there a machine out there or a product or a brand out there that you would not touch with somebody else's barge pole? Let us know in the chat. Love to hear from you on that. Straight away, Peter McKenna. I've never understood it, but JCB is a very polarizing, I'm not going to say divisive, it's a polarizing brand. There are those that love them and there are those not so strong. Looks like Peter McKenna comes down in the latter. Let's have a look. Jim Turner is saying, I was having a crack with someone involved in machine development manufacturing the other night. I think you might have you to thank for that, Mark. Well, maybe. And to the little differences that make or break a machine's popularity. Yeah, it really is. And I realise, he's very particular, but I saw a comment, I think it was in the WhatsApp group the other day, where Dan Cullen had been put on a new machine, and he had nowhere to put his coffee cup. There were no flat surfaces, no cup holder and everything else, and it niggled him. It's not a big deal, it was an easy fix, but it niggled him. One of the interesting things that I've seen, I'm just trying to remember who I was seeing it with. It was Komatsu, I think. They've installed on one of their machines kind of an internal bar that runs alongside the right-hand window, so along the right-hand side of the cab, and you can hang on it, cup holders and any other bits and pieces. Very, very simple, just a thin piece of narrow gauge steel, but you can hang your bits and pieces on it. Perfect. Nice, easy answer, and you go away with some very, very happy customers as a result. Let's have a look. Footy says, I think I hear Peter McKenna on the grapevine. Just got a full-time job now. Yes, he has. He is driving compactors, apparently. There we are. I can't see why they don't utilise these tonner compactors on construction sites. They are an amazing piece of kit. Well, good to hear. I don't know the first thing about compaction, I have to be perfectly honest. Having said that, I'm sat beside somebody over here. You can't see him, but he is sat beside me here. A major representative of the World Highways magazine. If anybody knows about compaction, the folks at World Highways most certainly do. Mick Norton's just joined us. Good morning to you, Mick. So I tell you what, we've done the question of the day. Shall we crack on and actually start to show you some bits and pieces from Intermat? Yeah, first thing this morning, I was over at the Komatsu stand. This isn't one of my films, I have to admit, although we have got one of my films coming up in a moment. But we were over with Komatsu first thing this morning, probably the biggest stand here. They've got a big outside display of mining equipment, and then they've got a full range inside as well, wheel loaders, trucks, the brand new PW168, the PW198, their new wheeled excavators, lots and lots of electric equipment on display, and a whole lot more besides. So this comes from the mighty Komatsu.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, I have the honor to invite all of you to our booth at Intermat 2024. After 6 years, we are very happy to be back in Paris together with you as we unveil the future of construction technology. At Komatsu, we are proud to lead the industry in innovation, and this year is no exception. As we look ahead, two main pillars stand out in our vision: electrification and digitalization. Electrification is not just a trend, it's a commitment to sustainability and efficiency. Our latest lineup of electric machines promises to revolutionize the way we build, reducing emissions and increasing productivity. But electrification is just one piece of the puzzle. Digitalization is equally crucial in shaping the future of construction. With our cutting-edge digital solutions, we empower our customers to improve operations, minimize downtime, and enhance safety like never before. On top of that, we will have no less than 30 machines on our booth, with some world premieres that we wish to reveal at Intermat. I invite each and every one of you to explore our booth to discover our latest innovations that will lead the construction industry forward, from electrification to digitalization. And with the state-of-the-art new machines, Komatsu reaffirms its commitment and support to the French, European, and African markets, and is paving the way to a more brighter, sustainable future, creating value together with you. And now it's time for Intermat.
Yeah, I have to say, having been over on the Komatsu stand yesterday and today, it is one of the biggest stands, but I think they've probably got more new product here than just about anybody. As I say, new electric machines, new wheel loaders. They've got a brand spanking new high-reach demolition machine, the PC 390 HRD-11. They've got, that's with the K100 boom change system. They've also got the brand new HD605-10 dump truck. And if all goes according to plan, at 1 o'clock this afternoon, I will be going over to Komatsu to speak to one of their product specialists on the HD605. So watch this space, because we will be featuring that in the not too distant future. So yeah, lots and lots of new kit from Komatsu, and they are quietly the star of the show, I think. They're not major razzmatazz, no dancing girls and that kind of thing, but very, very quietly the star of the show. What we got here? I'm yet to be convinced that electrification will bring with it increased safety. It's been a big talking point here at the show about electrification and about its potential benefits. And I think a lot of the manufacturers are quietly sensing a bit of a backlash from the market. I think a lot of us bought into the technology very early doors, maybe 5-6 years ago, when it was a novelty, it was an innovation, and it was very, very exciting. I think we've now come to terms with the fact that electrification as it stands today has its practical limitations, and obviously there is the promise of hydrogen coming immediately behind it. However, some of the most innovative things that I've seen at this show are electric. They absolutely are electric, and I always struggle to do this. I could never actually be a judge at one of the awards on these things. When I look around the show, and they've already actually done the awards, and Steel Wrist actually picked up an innovation award last night. I only know that because I saw them just a few moments ago. One of the things that strikes me about this is, everybody has got their own preferences, and as somebody that tries to look over the entire industry, it's hard to have favourites. from a Demolition Man point of view, the 390 HRD from Komatsu is one of the stars of the show. It's a fantastic machine, but it's also got a whole heap of tech built into it. So it really is a demolition game changer. But in terms of the machine that has really caught my eye, and I've seen it before, but it's seeing it again and speaking to the people behind it, the Bobcat Rogue X2 autonomous machine, and I know we always have our discussions about autonomy and the ethics thereof, and the fact that it could lead to unemployment and job losses and that kind of thing. I understand that. I do fully understand that. But when you think about the way that the industry was mechanized, and then hydraulics came along, and then and the progression and the evolution of the industry, I personally believe, not quite yet, it's not quite here yet, but autonomy is the answer to so many questions. For example, safety, and for another thing, we've been talking here in France. France have got exactly the same issue with skill shortages that we have. If you can't find people to drive machines, then let the machines drive themselves. It is an answer. And as I say, if I were to put my hand up and say the most innovative thing I've seen here at the show, what is it? It would be the Bobcat Rogue X2. I'm actually going to do my own personal film on that, which funnily enough, I scripted on the bus on the way over to here this morning. So, yeah. Peter McKenna says the only way to increase safety is get rid of the one thing that causes safety issues, humans. Speaking yesterday to a guy from Bobcat, a guy called Vijay Nerva. Vijay has been on this show before, several times actually, and we're planning, just to let you know, we haven't fixed the date yet, but we will be doing it. We're going to do a live show, a breakfast show after dark, so one Wednesday evening. We're going to get Vijay on because he lives in the future. You know how we're looking at electrification, what if electrification, what if autonomy? He's already thought past that. And even things like, when he was talking about the Bobcat operating platform, and he said, they've got skid steer loaders, they've got mini excavators, and they've got telescopic handlers, all of which they do very, very well. Bobcat are among the market leaders in all of those categories. He said, doesn't it seem strange, though, that we have different startup procedures on all of them? An operator has to basically, even if he gets off a Bobcat Mini and goes to a Bobcat skid steer, there is a new procedure for him to learn. Do away with it. Standardize it. That is the kind of minutiae that they're thinking about, and Vijay in particular. Honestly, I'm going to get him on a live show one evening. He will, I promise you in advance, he will blow your freaking mind. He really will. The man is living in the future, even though the future hasn't arrived yet. Let's have a look. Jim Turner says, question of the day. Our question of the day was, what is your least favourite equipment brand? All of them, says Jim. He's taking no prisoners this morning. Too much technology. No one does a bog standard low-tech option in their machine range that would give a buyer confidence in splashing out on a machine that they could run for 20 plus years. And what I realise this is a bugbear for you, Jim, and I know this is something we've discussed on the show over the past few weeks. The crazy thing about this is many of those manufacturers do offer a stripped down low cost option, but it's not for sale here. It's aimed for third world markets, Africa, Middle East and that kind of thing, but places where they're not so concerned about emissions and that kind of thing. But they exist. Caterpillar offer, a reduced everything version of many of their machines for those markets. As far as I know, you're not allowed to buy them outside of those countries, which seems crazy given the fact that there is a demand. Let's have a look who we got. Dan Collins here as well. Morning, Dan. We were talking about you just a few moments ago. Now, as Dan is here, you know how Dan likes a bit of merch. These are mine. I'm not giving these away because these are mine. But check this out. Yes, highly desirable. I've got myself a pair of Bobcat trainers. Yeah, thank you, Bobcat, for that. Thank you for your time yesterday as well. We had a great time with Dennis Agnew and Vijay Nerva as well. Awesome bunch of people, they really are. One of the the products that they're showing out. You remember we showed you in the past when we were talking about Bobcat, this transparent OLED screen that they were using as a heads-up display. So if you're looking at the front of your skid steer loader, for example, you've got all of your functions actually there on your windscreen, but you're looking through a computer screen. So they've now taken that. They've got a prototype telescopic handler here, the name of which has completely gone out of my head. But they've actually put it along the right-hand side of the inside of the cab. One of talking about innovation, how's this? I don't know if there are out there any telescopic handler operators, but one of the big issues with the telescopic handler is visibility, because if you're driving a telescopic handler, this is me, I'm about to do an impression of a telescopic handler, so bear with me. If you're driving a telescopic handler, every time you raise the boom, you are losing that bit of vision because you can't see past the boom. We all know that, you know, it's been an issue for as long as telescopic handlers have existed. One of the functions built into the OLED screen on this new prototype is basically, you know how we had the transparent bucket from Doosan stroke Devellon? They now have a transparent boom option on this prototype telescopic handler. Basically, there is a camera on the outside of the boom, and if you select that function, you look through the OLED screen and through the boom that's beyond it, and you can see people coming and going. You can see, you know, what is over here on your right-hand side, even though the boom is completely blocking your eye line. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really smart bit of kit, I have to say. Just an awesome bit of kit. As I say, the Bobcat guys, they were exhibiting at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, at the very beginning of the year over in Las Vegas. And it seems strange, at first glance, it seems strange for a construction equipment manufacturer to be exhibiting alongside Google and Apple and Samsung and all these technology leaders. But in terms of what they're doing, they are absolutely 100% a technology company. To the point, I mentioned this to Vijay when I was speaking to him yesterday. One of the things that I've always claimed, I don't think I invented the phrase, but I claim it. I always used to think of construction equipment being somewhere between 5 and 10 years behind the automotive industry. You know, if they got Bluetooth connectivity, 5 years later we'd have it, and all of the things, you know. There are bits and pieces on that, the new prototype telescopic handler, and also on the Rogue X2 skid steer loader, that are the equal, if not the better, of the automotive industry. They've come that far. They've come that far. Peter McKenna, commenting on my trainers, how very dare you? He says, they look horrendous. It's because you haven't seen them in context. You wait until you see them on my feet. You'll be, well, you know, everyone knows what a dedicated follower of fashion I am, and I'm going to sport them with pride. You wait and see. You will eat your words, Mr. McKenna. Mick Norton, question of the day. It's strange to say I can't pick a definitive manufacturer. They are all much of a muchness in 2024. I'm not going to give the game away because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm planning a video that is leading up to the X2. And part, I don't want to say too much because, as I say, I don't want to give the game away. But I was thinking about iconic machines from the past, you know, the Drott, the Cat D8H, the early doors Cat, JCB backhoe loader, the 22RB, you know, all those machines that we get all teary-eyed about when we look back. Is there a machine of today that you think, yeah, that is fully representative of today? It has changed the game. I can't think of a single one. Where I think we might get that next is in electrification and in hydrogenization. You know, where we actually make the switch. You know, people will look back in years to come and say, you know, everybody talked about electric, but that is the one that defined, and that's what led to, and hydrogen, exactly the same. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, that Rogue X2 from Bobcat, if autonomy becomes a thing, and it may not happen in my career span, it may not happen in my lifetime, but if it becomes a thing, I would like to think people will look back and go, you know what, that actually was autonomous machines ground zero. There's a video coming about that. Watch this space. Peter McKenna says, my latest pair of trainers were 20 quid and they are from China and well built, solid, and seem like they will last a few years. I'm quite demanding on trainers. I'm a big Skechers fan. But they've only, in my experience, they've only got 1 or 2 exhibitions in them. I mean, I'm clocking somewhere between 12 and 15,000 steps a day. The first pair that I had did a Conexpo. No, they did a Bauma and a Conexpo, and then they were basically knackered. The ones that I'm wearing at the moment, and I've got Skechers on my feet right now, they have done, I can't remember the last show that I did, probably Samota, I would imagine, and they're doing Intermat, but these are due for a replacement as well. So when I get myself over to my Expo, first stop, head on down the strip, over to the Skechers shop, get myself a brand new pair of low-cost Skechers. Jim Turner says, exactly, Mark, a bit like Land Rover, they offered galvanised chassis and bulkhead for the foreign market, but not for us. Biggest failure of British Land Rover longevity was the chassis and bulkhead rotting away. Bloody balmy. It is balmy. It is balmy. I can understand it. Listen, I mean, I fully understand. If you add value, in inverted commas, if you add value as a manufacturer or as an OEM, you can charge more for it. And let's face it, everyone's in business. They all try to do that wherever possible. But there is a market out there for those that just want the stripped down version that they will look after for themselves and as Jim rightly said, make it last 15, 20, 30 years and still earn its keep. Dan Cullen says, I like anything red. I wouldn't normally go for a pair of red trainers, but I have to say, when I was presented with them yesterday, made my day. OLED will severely compromise safety if they're encouraging telescopic handler operators to keep the boom elevated when traveling. Massive instability issues at stake. I tell you what, I'm going to go and take that over to Bobcat. As I say, the machine that we're talking about here is actually a prototype anyway, so this is not yet commercially available. Will it ever come off the drawing board? Remains to be seen. But the very fact that they're thinking about visibility. And yes, you can have camera systems. And I've been looking at the brand new PW machines from Komatsu this morning. 4 cameras on every machine as standard. 1 on each side, 1 on the front, 1 on the back. All of that. But we've all been aware of the blind spot that telescopic handlers have. It's been cured. Now, whether you should be travelling like that is a whole other issue. But as I say, Nick, I will take that to Bobcat a bit later in the day. So I tell you what, let's crack on because I do want to show you around the Volvo stand. So let me play this for you first.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Right, I've just mentioned I want to show you around the Volvo stand. We've done more films with Volvo because they've got some very, very sexy stuff on their stand. But I wanted to show you the stand very, very quickly. So we ran around yesterday to bring you this.
Intermat 2024 is all about innovation and decarbonisation. And nowhere is that more evident than on the Volvo construction equipment stand. Everywhere you look, there's electric machines, there's hydrogen machines, there's technology. Let's go take a look. And this is precisely the kind of thing we're talking about, an all-electric paver. We've also got a brand new all-electric mini excavator. And over here, an all-electric compact wheel loader. And to make it all work, you're going to need one of these. And if you think electric is all about compact machines, you need to think again. Look at this. And this. Not convinced by electric? How about hydrogen? Because it's all of that too. Behind me is the Volvo HX04 prototype all hydrogen articulated dump truck.
Yeah, I realise they've gone for the green colour on that HX04 for obviously hydrogen reasons and to show off sustainability and zero carbon and all the things. Made it look like a Terex, though, didn't it? An old Terex of old. Those of you old enough to remember the Terex green colour. That's the colour that Terex dump trucks ended up. They started out a deeper green, if memory serves me correctly, but get them out in the weather, that's the colour they ended up. Electric trucks are absolutely not fit for purpose, says Peter McKenna. Peter's got it in for electric trucks, my trainers. Did you not sleep well last night, Peter? Has somebody upset you? Has somebody hurt you in some way? Let us know. Jim Turner says more build options should be offered by manufacturers, and then a buyer would start with a price or a basic spec, then add to it any options, and know exactly how much each option is going to cost them. Yeah. Again, speaking to Bobcat, I spent a lot of time chatting to Bobcat yesterday because they know their stuff. One of the things that they were talking about is opening up additional functionality. I know it's something that they've mentioned in the past and we've spoken about here on the show, but you can buy the plan, or the notion is you would buy a basic machine. Buy a basic machine, and then if your circumstances change, if your application needs change, or if you change industries or whatever it might be, you can electronically could electronically open up additional functionality, including things like, you've bought a skid steer loader for, very sort of basic loading. No, not much more than that. Don't need a huge amount of power, but then you put it in an application where you need a bit more power. The notion is that you would be able to key that into your keypad within your machine, and you would, at a cost, you would open up additional functionality. That's the way the future looks. And I think that plays to exactly what Jim is saying. And I know he's talking more specifically about mechanical type things. I don't want GPS. I don't want the super duper luxury seat and all those things. I fully understand that. But it is coming. That flexibility is coming. Dan Cullen is saying electric is not feasible. Would you rather I lie, Peter? Well, it depends. If you're talking about my trainers, yes. If you're talking about electric, no, you feel free. You shoot from the hip. Chris Ford just joined us. Morning, Chris. Here eventually, different day, different hat. Yeah. Same old me, I'm afraid. What can I tell you? Footy is going to get back to work. Not a problem at all, Footy. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And there's Peter McKenna saying goodbye and au revoir to you. So, shall we have a little bit more stuff? Jim Turner's back. He says a machine is basically a platform to build off, and the sooner more manufacturers realise that, the better it'll be for everyone. Take Hudig and Lorini as examples. Lorini's a funny one because, certainly with something like the Jumbo that we saw, Despe had basically gone out and bought themselves a big, was it 6015B? I think it probably was, a big mining excavator, and then handed it to Lorini to chop up into little pieces and reassemble it as a demolition giant. So not so much a manufacturer, well, although they are a manufacturer, obviously, but they are more a modifier. Do you really want to go through the process of modifying? Probably not. Not entirely sure it's cost effective, but yeah, we shall see. Let's have a look. Was it me arriving or everyone else is leaving? Must change the deodorant. I don't think it's you. I don't think it's you at all. I think it's this grad space I have. I'm all echoey and stuff. Right, I said that I was going to bring you more, and I am. How about we go unplugged? I can't pull the plug out, obviously, but I can go unplugged with Yanmar. I do apologise. I've just turned that off. Let me start that again. Love the music, if nothing else. So, last night, got back to the hotel, dumped my bags, popped out, found a pizza, was delicious, although Fred's had a raw egg in it, less said about that the better. Went back to the hotel, turned on my computer to find that our YouTube channel, the Demolition News YouTube channel, was at that point sat at 99,998 followers. Being the anorak that I had, and bearing in mind the size of my ego, I basically sat there and watched it for the best part of an hour until it clicked over. As of last night, we've got 100,000 YouTube subscribers. 100,000. That's more than Wembley Stadium full of people looking at Demolition. Ain't that strange? Ain't that strange? Many thanks indeed, Peter. Yeah, listen, it's meaningless. It's a vanity metric, but I've been eyeing it for a long time. You know, we've been sat at sort of 97,000 or thereabouts. But it is a vanity metric. Nobody's going to pay me more money for it. No, it means nothing. But what it does mean is that you lot saw us over the wire. That YouTube channel has been in existence for probably best part of 10 years, I guess. And it kind of bobbed along and bobbed along and bobbed along. And then we started the live show, and it just suddenly did one of those. And then it's kind of but people, you are part of, I mean, if you consider 100,000 YouTube subscribers success, you are a part of it. You are all part of that success. So thank you very much indeed. Mark, grateful for a link to the new OLED product you mentioned. Yes, I would. Well, there is a video coming from us. I'm not entirely sure if Bobcat have done that. But I'd be more than happy to introduce you. There's a guy called Dennis Agnew. He's an American guy. Really made me feel like an idiot, which frankly is not difficult, but a really smart guy, but a really, really dynamic, helpful guy. I'll put the two of you in touch with each other because I think you could have a long old chinwag on that. I think you'd enjoy that. And I think Dennis would as well. One of the things that I really admire about Bobcat is normally when I walk onto a stand at a show or when I go to visit a company, it's a case of here's a thing and here's another thing, here's another thing. Yesterday with Bobcat, an awful lot of it was, so what do you think? What could we do? What could we do to improve it? Does that hit the mark? Very, very open. They really are. Now, one of the other exhibitors right here at Intermat, I forgot where I was for a second, Intermat 2024 is Leica. And we'll be back with a bit of Leica in just a moment.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, I've got to be 100% honest. I uploaded this video without really watching it. I can only apologise. For those of you that were here earlier, I actually started the live stream 5 minutes early because I ran. I'm an old fart, but I ran from the steel wrist stand where I've been speaking to one of the founders there. And I've just had a cup of coffee today. Thank you, James. Better service than I get at home, Ruth. Yes, I ran from steel wrist, ran over here, thought I was 5 minutes late. In actual fact, I was 5 minutes early, pressed the button and went live. So as a result of all that, I was one video short. I went to Leica. I've uploaded the Leica video. I've not seen it. If this suddenly starts to play in Bulgarian or German or French or anything like that, I will stop it because I've got something else as a backup. But hopefully this is the latest word from Leica.
Today we are very happy to present to you, to introduce you this new antenna, which is called the ICOM GPS 120, which is the first Leica Geosystem intelligent antenna. What does it mean? It means that the intelligence is embedded in the antenna, it has been designed for more flexibility. So it is a complement of the range of solutions from Leica Geosystems, and it has been developed, for example, for new users of machine guidance. So the idea is that you pre-equip your machines and you make the intelligence go from one machine to another very easily, just taking the antennas. Also for rental companies, it is hard to equip all your park, all your fleet, but with this solution, you can pre-equip your machines and the intelligence will flow from one machine to another very easily. All the job sites are not done with suitable application in guidance, so it's easy just to pick up the antenna and to put that on the machine that needs the intelligence. It's flexible, it's been thought for you, new users, rental companies, and people with evolutive needs. Welcome to the Icon GPS 120 Intelligent Antenna, a new addition to the Leica Geosystem range of solutions.
Everything's getting smarter, and I'm getting more stupid as the days go by. But yeah, fantastic new product from the fine folks at Leica. They've got a very impressive stand. I don't know if anybody else picked this up. Not had a chance to feature it here. I think the two have been working in conjunction for quite some time. X-Watch, there go the balloons again. Turns out this is an Apple Mac issue. I can only apologise. Yes, Leica and X-Watch apparently have been working in conjunction, and Hexagon, who own Leica is part of the Hexagon group. They have now acquired X-Watch as of a day or two ago. Lucani actually announced that, and I didn't get a chance to do it because this. So yes, interesting times. I'm hoping that's a good deal for the fine folks at X-Watch because they're a lovely bunch of people. So yeah, fingers crossed. And I will apologise again about the went on to, I use a platform called StreamYard to broadcast this show, and apparently there is a glitch with the update to the Apple Mac that throws those balloons in at random. They are working on a fix or a patch to make it go away, but I'll let you know as that comes along. It does seem appropriate though, given the fact that we hit 100,000 subscribers yesterday. And if anybody would like to know more about that X-Watch Hexagon tie-up, acquisition, merger thing, you can do that. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for that, Lou. There is a link in the chat. You can go and have a look at all the details there. But I think that's a fantastic deal. And I guess it was always going to happen, not necessarily with those two, but the latest technological revolution within the industry has spawned a whole bunch of new companies, both in-house within the major manufacturers like a Bobcat, but also externally as well. There's got to be some sort of rationalization, you'd have to think, and then maybe it begins there. X-Watch is now part of Hexagon. Be interested to see exactly what they make of it, but all good stuff, because we love both of the companies, but also that's more opportunity for innovation. Boy, oh boy, do we love innovation. Just looking out the window, and there's a mesh on it here, but when you look at this, I don't know how many exhibitors they've got. I think it's close on 1,000, if it might be even slightly more than 1,000. All of those companies, I can see over in the distance, Hyundai, I've got Sunwood down here, I've got Black Cat Wear Parts down there. Who's that down there? I can't actually make it out. No, can't see the name of the company there. But all of these manufacturers, all vying for tiny bits of the industry. And you have to think, particularly in the field of technology and that kind of thing, there is a lot of space for rationalization. I think if you fast forward 10 years, probably half of them will be gone because they will be part of somebody else. You'd have to think. There's not enough of this to go around. There really isn't. And maybe rationalization in the equipment manufacturers themselves. It's happened before, and I'm pretty sure it will happen again. Rather than develop a new product or a new line of products, go and acquire somebody. Obviously, badging goes on all the time, but if you can badge and then ultimately buy the company that you're badging, why would you not? Caterpillar got a good track record of that, attachments-wise. Bought Vibram of Ractet back in the day. Ractet was an absolutely fantastic innovator in terms of attachments. Still are, only they're now doing it under the Caterpillar umbrella. It's been an interesting couple of days. We will roll over into the Craic in a moment, but obviously You get to see a lot of new equipment here at these shows. You also get to meet a lot of people as well. But there's also a lot of time where you're walking the aisles, where you've got nothing better to do than to think about stuff. And that was one of the things that spawned this idea of doing a look back to the iconic machines of the past, the 22RB, and the potentially iconic machines of the future, like the Bobcat Rogue X2, which I will be filming at some point. Don't know if I'll get it done today. I may do it tomorrow, but see how we go on that. But it does give you plenty of time to think, and part of what I've been thinking is about that, rationalisation, particularly with the arrival of all these Chinese manufacturers. And just so you know, and I'm just trying to get my bearings, I think it's down that way. Obviously, there's Sunward down below there, Sanya outside, but there is actually a Chinese pavilion here at the show. He would never tell you this, but I actually ran over a Chinese man last night. I'll come back to that. But there is a Chinese pavilion here, and there are companies here that are equipment manufacturers from China that I've never heard of. I mean, I encountered one yesterday, a company called Shanding mini excavator manufacturer. The mini excavators look pretty damn smart, but they also look like pretty much everybody else's. Is there really enough market out there for another mini excavator manufacturer, or another one after that, or another one after that? I'm not so sure there is. I know there's a high demand for mini excavators, but I'm not entirely sure there's enough to justify all of those manufacturers. So where does that go? Do we see a rationalisation, or do we see a few being lost? I'll tell you something else as well, and this is the kind of thing that I was discussing with VJ over at Bobcat yesterday. We were talking about the state of the market and all of those kind of things, like you do. And he reckons, and frankly, he is one of the smartest people in the industry, so I'm going to take his word for it. He reckons that the next big shift in the market is unlikely to come from within. In other words, it won't be a Volvo thing, it won't be a Liebherr thing, it won't be a Komatsu thing. He reckons it will be a technological thing from a technology company. Interesting. I mean, if electrification gained a proper foothold, I don't mean, people were dabbling with it, but if electrification gained a proper foothold, who's to say that, and I know we've joked about it in the past, Tesla goes into in competition with Caterpillar. Maybe not. But given the fact that the Chinese effectively own 90% of the world's lithium or lithium ion, they also own most of the world's electric vehicle technology. Who's to say that they won't glance away from cars, which is highly competitive, and think, do you know what? We're going to have a piece of that. Possibly on their own, possibly as part of somebody else. Could they do a tie-up with an XCMG or a Sany or a Sunward? Could they do a tie-up with Caterpillar or Komatsu or Volvo or Liebherr? Interesting times ahead. These are all things that you get to think about when you're wandering the aisles. And I did say that I ran over a Chinaman. I did, not on purpose. I was walking along with Fred, and I was trying to put my camera away. So I wasn't really looking where I was going. This was, I'm telling you now, this was 100% my fault. And I was walking along, and I was adjusting the camera and putting it in a bag, and then putting the bag on my shoulder. And out of nowhere, well, I thought out of nowhere, a little Chinese man was stood in my way, and I literally walked straight into him. There wasn't a case of just bumping. I literally, his head hit my chest. And after I'd apologised, I said to Fred, where did he come from? And Fred said, he was stood there all along. I just hadn't seen, he was only a little fella, about 5 foot tall. Yeah, only a little fella, and I literally rolled over him. Sir, I know we couldn't communicate yesterday, but if you are listening, if you're watching, sorry. I don't know what Chinese or Japanese is for sorry, but I really am very, very sorry. That wasn't my intention at all. That wasn't me trying to stake my claim for the Europeans. It was a pure accident, instigated by a complete pillock. I do apologise. Right, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I am going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying. And we are going to discuss your least favourite equipment manufacturers. I think we've only had one offer, and I'm a little disappointed with that, but I'm going to go over and have a look at that in just a moment. Until I do that, here is a final word from our key show sponsor. I will go back to the beginning of the chat, but I will tell you now, Andy Darvell has just said, morning, as he always does. Sorry I'm late. Been training a young driver on the machine I'm passing on to him. Yes, we're counting the seconds now, Andy. Andy will go from being a Mick George man to being a superstar over at AR Demolition in the very, very near future. Looking forward to that. Hopefully, when the balloons play in the background, it'll be when I'm talking to Andy because he deserves it. Looking forward to that, and no need to apologise at all. Question of the day: least favourite equipment brands. Dan Cullen's just thrown in Doosan and Demolition. Interesting. I've got to be honest with you, I was kind of expecting lots of people to say, anything Chinese or something. I do apologise, but I do need this. God, that's good. Yeah, I was expecting everybody to say Chinese. The first answer we had on that was, I think, Peter McKenna, who said that his least favourite brand was JCB. I have a very different relationship with JCB. We need some music, actually, don't we? Now we're in this bit of the show. Let me see if I can do something about that. Let's go with this one. That's better. Yes, I have a very different relationship with the fine folks at JCB. I find them nothing but hospitable, helpful, and everything else. And I'll give you an example. I'm only going to name one of the two names involved in this. So, a couple of years ago, I needed a photograph of an apprentice. I'd written a lead story for a magazine, and they wanted to feature an apprentice from the construction equipment industry. So I reached out to a manufacturer and JCB. JCB came back within 5 minutes and said, what are you after? And I said, well, I'm desperate for a photograph of an apprentice. Do you have such a thing? And the person in question, and I'll tell you now, is a guy called Nigel Chow up at JCB. He said, well, no, we don't have anything of that nature, but give me half an hour. And he got their photographer to go onto the shop floor and to shoot the photograph, send it to me. Obviously, as you'd expect, it was a very, very good photograph, high quality, exactly what I wanted, perfect, and it was turned around in about half an hour. The other manufacturer I asked to do it came back to me 2 months later and said, do you still need a photograph of an apprentice? No, I do not. Thank you very much for asking. So yes, as I say, I genuinely, any opportunity to get up and see JCB. I bumped into Tim Burnhope in the aisles yesterday. Obviously one of our best guests ever, I would say. I bumped into him in the aisles yesterday. He was out and about having a look, see what everybody was up to. I find JCB an absolute joy to work with. And yet, as I said, they are a polarising business. I can guarantee when we feature JCB on this show, but also over on Instagram, there's a real mixed bag. There's lots of people that are very, very pro JCB, but there's also a lot of people that are, you need a bag of spanners with that because it will always be breaking down. I've even had to produce a video rant where I talked about the fact that nobody's yet proven that to me. So yes, it's a divisive brand, a polarising brand, but in my experience, nothing but helpful. Mark Whiting is here all the way from sunny Tipton. I didn't realise they had sun in Tipton. I didn't realise it had been invented that far up. I say up, it's only in the Midlands, but yeah, you get my meaning. There's my other half. Good morning, Ruth. Good morning. Let's have a look. Footy joined us and there, but well, not necessarily the star of this show, but unquestionably the star of the Scott Plant show, Mr. Gary Muirhead. It's strange how the wheels of the world work, isn't it? I got that message. Let me have a look. I got that message at 11:01 Parisian time. At 10:55 Parisian time, I was talking to the founder of Steel Wrist. So yes, it's been a very Steel Wrist heavy show today, even though we haven't featured them at all. But Gary, I hope you're having a fantastic time up in Edinburgh, isn't it? I think it's Edinburgh. I hope you're having a fantastic time. Jim Turner's in the house, and there's Joe Westman, my mate from, obviously he's a Brit. He's based up in, is he based in, it's Banbury. Yeah, Banbury, Steelist over in the UK. That feels weird. Over in the UK. That's where I'm from, but over in the UK. Steelist at Banbury. Joe Westman's from there, but the last time I saw him was in Germany. It's a weird thing. Like I've just bumped into a guy on the Komatsu stand who I last saw at the Samota show. He's German, I'm English, but we met in Italy, and that's the way that the world works. It's all good stuff. Yes, I was mentioning this innovation from the fine folks at Komatsu. It feels weird talking about this. I remember sitting in a press conference once for the launch of a new machine, and the product specialist got to his feet. We'd already seen a bit of a video, but the product specialist got to his feet, and the first new feature of the machine that he talked about was the new door hinges. And you could sense 20, 30, 40 journalists putting down their notebooks like, oh dear, if they're starting with the door hinges, there's not much here. Turns out there actually was, as it happens. But it sounds very, very strange to be talking about a pull-out or a fold-out step. But it's innovations like that that make life easier. Yes, they probably could have reconfigured the machine to have dipsticks and oil filters all down here. But I mean, the PW198, it's a 20-ton machine. It's a 20-ton duck. So, I mean, effectively, the engine starts more or less at chest level. So everything goes above that. So Komatsu have looked at it. How do we make life easier? And there's a little pin you pull out and you slide out. It looks like a metal tray. It clicks into place. You stand on it and you do all your morning checks and everything else. Change your filters and what have you, all from the safety of a purpose-built, purpose-designed step. And then when you finish, you pop it back in again. Very, very simple. It's probably 60 quid's worth. Not a big deal, but it makes life easier. I'm a fan. I am a fan. I like me a fold-out step. Never thought I'd say that, but I like me a fold-out step. There is Lou Carney. Thanks, Lou, for sharing the X-Watch Hexagon details a bit later in the show. Well worth a read of that. And there's Jim Turner. I read it once and didn't see how clever he'd been, but yes, we're talking about the Komatsu step. Not radical, but definitely a step in the right direction. You got that past me. It took me 2 attempts to realise you'd actually done a funny. Thank you very much. This coffee's delicious. Andy Hare is in the house. I am planning, I've got my little camera here. Once this show is over and done with, which won't be long now, I am planning to get on my feet and go and have a look around. And one of the things that I want to do, I want to go and focus purely on attachments, because there is a lot of attachments here. I've already bumped into the likes of MB Crusher and VTN and Rama and Montebear and Trevi Benny and a whole host of others. So I'm literally going to go and fill my camera with all things attachments in just a few moments. And I'll be bringing that to you at some point in the future. Lou Carney taking me back to hello days. Good morning. Yes, absolutely. It is I, Leclerc. It's a strange thing. At the time, my dad used to laugh at hello, and at the time I watched it and thought, this is actually quite silly. But it's actually quite funny. It is quite funny, and I do particularly like It Is I, Leclerc. If those of you that don't know, it was a little old fella who was kind of a spy, and he would turn up in these ridiculous costumes, but every time you could clearly see it was him, and he'd lift his glasses up and say, "It is I, Leclerc." Well, we all know that. It's obvious that it is Leclerc. Let's have a look. Who else we got here? Peter McKenna, who is now a compactor operator. I wish I understood it. I mean, I get the idea of vibration and all that kind of thing. But there's a lot of science in compaction, and it just hurts my head. So I leave it to the expert. There's a bloke sat round the corner there at the moment, a guy called Mike Wolf over on World Highways magazine. He knows his compaction. Oh boy, does he know his compaction. So yes, I bow to his superior knowledge on the subject. Ken Hatcher, always a pleasure. Good morning, Ken. And he's got some sunshine. Look at that, some real sunshine. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, you gotta love it. Jim Turner says, I was having a crack with someone involved in machine development manufacturing the other night. Think I have you to thank for that, Mark? Listen, my influence is almost universal. What with my 100,000 YouTube subscribers? See how I subtly dropped that into conversation? It means fuck all. It means nothing at all. But I am going to tell people about it a lot, particularly when there is a certain West Sussex-based media organisation that claim that this is a defunct channel and that we're going down the toilets. I think they've got about 390 subscribers on YouTube. Who's going down the toilet? Don't think it's going to be me. Yes, our question of the day was least favourite equipment brand. I'm not going to comment. One of these days, in my memoirs, I will reveal those companies that are the hardest to deal with and those companies that are easiest to deal with. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you the easiest ones right now. JCB, Bobcat, Volvo, Komatsu. Did I say Liebherr? If I didn't, I mean Liebherr as well. All of those are an absolute pleasure to deal with. They do a thing, right? So you all know what I do. You all know what Fred does, right? You know, I'm going to do a bit quick football analogy. So you look at a football player like the former star of West Ham, Declan Rice. Declan Rice played for West Ham. He's now playing for Arsenal. Are they going to win the league? Probably not. But okay, but Declan Rice is very, 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 very good at one thing, and he was good at that thing at West Ham, and he's also very good at it at Arsenal. And then somebody puts him in an England shirt and says, "You know that thing you do? Well, don't do that. Do something else." We have that problem. We have exactly that problem, myself and Fred. You know what we do. The manufacturers know what we do. And yet some of them insist, you turn up at a press conference. Yeah, we know what you do, but could you do this instead? Why invite us? Whereas the likes of, I'm going up to Expositions in May with Volvo. And Volvo, once we've arrived and we've gone through sort of health and safety checks and various other bits and pieces, if the last time was anything to go by, they will basically say, here's 40, 50, 60 machines, virtually everything we make, or an example of everything we make. Have fun. And then they walk away because they know that we know our way around machines. They know that we know what to do health and safety wise and everything else. They also know that we know how to make a machine look as good as it possibly can. And they just let us go and get on with it. JCB is the same. Bobcat's the same. Liebherr's the same. And yet there are some companies, and I'm not going to name them, I'll save that for the memoirs. There are some companies that just make your life bloody difficult. What is the point? I mean, listen, there is a company, they're exhibiting here. I won't name them. There is a company exhibiting here that basically is, internally, they are blacklisted. And the reason they're blacklisted is because they threw Fred off a stand. He was at an exhibition. Diggers and Dozers lanyard around his neck, Diggers and Dozers hat, Diggers and Dozers t-shirt, walked onto the stand of a manufacturer, aimed a camera at a machine, and a guy came over and said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm filming." "Where are you from?" "Diggers and Dozers." "Never heard of it." "Who are you really?" I'm from Diggers and Dozers." "No, we'd like you to leave the stand." Yeah. And this is an equipment manufacturer. And if you're in the UK, they're not a million miles from wherever you are. And they threw him off the stand. So as a result, they don't come on this show anymore. Why would you deal with companies like that? And bearing in mind, you think about, I've been walking around this show now for 3 days. Every man and his dog has got a bloody camera in their hand. They're filming or photographing. Why would you get all uptight about somebody filming one of your machines? Don't understand it at all. I digress. Let's have a look. Questions 8. I'm going to have a quick slurp of this. Bear with me. It was better hot, but still good. Question of the day was, which is your least favourite equipment manufacturer? And Jim Turner says, all of them. Too much technology. No one does a bog standard low-tech option in their machine range that would give a buyer confidence in splashing out a machine they could run for 20 plus years. One of the things I find interesting with that, and I realise that Jim is a single voice in the wilderness, but I'm sure he's not alone in this. Whenever I speak to equipment manufacturers, frankly, that's all I've been doing for the last couple of days. They're always they go to great lengths and they're at pains to express how much they appreciate the feedback from customers and end users, how they've worked with end users in the development of the machine, how customers and operators have influenced the way that the machine has been designed, the way that it's built, the way that it's operated. And yeah, as I say, I'm sure Jim is not a single voice in the wilderness. I'm sure there are lots of Jims out there who would like a stripped-down, low-tech version of a machine that they could look after themselves. We don't need GPS. We don't need all the, we don't need laser guidance. We don't need hover pads. We don't need any of that. We just want a base machine that will perform a purpose or will take care of a particular application. Makes me wonder just how closely those manufacturers are listening to the end users and to the operators as well. And I understand, there are certain applications. You think about maybe civil engineering. You think about projects like an HS2, where obviously very bleeding edge of development. You want it to be as accurate as it possibly can be. I can understand them wanting to embrace all things GPS and ground penetrating radar. I get that. And in that application, I think that is absolutely the correct thing to do. But for the average owner operator, for the average farmer or smallholder, for the local builder, do you want that? Do you need that? Does it make your life better? It makes your life more expensive. It really does. You think about it from a car perspective. I speak as a person that actually quite likes a bit of tech, but my wife's car is the most intrusive thing in my entire life. You switch the car on and it bleeps because I put it in reverse. It bleeps because I haven't fastened my seatbelt. I haven't even set off yet, but it's bleeping about it. It bleeps if I put shopping on one of the seats because I haven't put a seatbelt on the shopping. It bleeps because one of the tyres has got a reduced pressure compared to the others. It's a pain in the arse. An absolute pain in the arse. That's not a benefit. I ran cars for, 30 odd years. And if the tyre pressure went down, you'd spot it. I don't need a little electronic device telling me about it. Really don't. Starting to sound like an old curmudgeon again, aren't I? I'm yet to be convinced that electrification will bring with it increased safety. Discuss. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I'm not sure electrification directly will, but I think some of the things that electrification will facilitate might. It sounds like I'm a salesman for the Rogue X2, and I'm really not. I'm just very impressed by it. But going back to that Rogue X2, Bobcat have taken a look at the job of a machine, and they've said, there will be applications. So, in the extreme, nuclear reactors; in the less extreme, demolition. But there are applications where you really not, ideally, you wouldn't want to put a man in a machine. It would be much better to use just a machine. Now you could go Brock, and you could have either a tethered or a Bluetooth solution or the Remo Quip. You have a machine and you're working like this. Or if it's a job that is in some way repetitive or predictable, why not teach the machine how to do it and then let it get on with it while you're doing something else? And yes, before the health and safety police descend upon the Parc des Expositions in Paris, I realised that machines need to be monitored, and I realised one of the things, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. But if you could train a machine to do a job that is hazardous or dangerous to a man, why would you not? Why would you not? And going back to Mick's point there, that has come partly through autonomy. It's come partly through electrification. Why would you not? I think that's a perfectly valid point. I was going somewhere with that, and I don't know where I was going back to. It may come back to me in a second. This is a key point. The only way to increase safety is to get rid of the one thing that causes safety issues: humans. More than that. That is 100%. I mean, I couldn't agree with that statement anymore if I tried. But there's more than that. I tend to take a fairly, not insular, because I do speak to lots and lots of people from overseas. I'm aware of the fact that we've got a very serious skill shortage in the construction and demolition industry in the UK. They've got exactly the same thing in America. They've got exactly the same thing in Australia and in New Zealand. As it transpires, they've got exactly the same thing here in France. They've got exactly the same thing in Germany as well, and in Italy. So I wouldn't say I've covered all of the countries, but I've covered a large chunk of the world, all suffering with the skill shortage for construction and demolition. How do you fix that? Well, we've tried to convince the next generation that driving an excavator is just like playing on a PlayStation. It isn't. You don't die if you fuck up on a PlayStation, but you might if you fuck up on an excavator. So that hasn't worked. We've tried to convince people that construction is somehow sexy. That didn't work either. We've tried to convince young women that construction is a perfectly great place to work. We know it isn't, and so on down the line. So if we can't get enough people through the door to actually drive machines, what is our fallback position? Get machines to drive themselves. Now, again, having spoken to Bobcat and other people as well, I realise Bobcat are very aware of the ethics of this and their moral responsibility for potential job losses and that kind of thing. But I think we're taking a short-sighted view of it. I think some machines will be autonomous, but somebody is going to have to teach that machine how to do what it needs to do. An operator, an existing operator, a human flesh and bone, carbon-based person will need to do that. The machines are going to need to be monitored, and they will be monitored, in an ideal world, by another flesh and bone, carbon-based human. So I'm not entirely convinced that the arrival of autonomy means mass unemployment. It might in the long distant future, but I don't believe that's the case now. But we've got a situation where we have an endless desire and demand for more built environment. The population of the world is going up, so we need more homes. We need to connect them, so we need more roads and railways and airports. We need to educate them, so we need more schools, and so on down the line. All of that needs to be built. And if we can't find enough people to build them, what is the solution? Machines are the solution. And as I said, I will present to you the video once I've done it. But I think the Rogue X2 could be ground zero. I think there could be generations in the future, assuming there are people to do that kind of thing. Because frankly, I'd be very easy to replace. You could replace me with a shaved monkey. Probably not even bother to shave it. But in future generations, they will look back and say, ground zero for autonomy was that. That was the point where we changed. And as it stands at the moment, I reckon that Bobcat Rogue X2 is that starting point. I really do. Now, let's have a look. Dan Cullen did like my trainers. Yes. What are they? Wouldn't fit me. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, listen, I'm a size 8, not a size 17. I was an easy fit. And Peter McKenna, I'm going to gloss over the fact that he hates my trainers. You're unlikely to ever see them unless I get around to putting my feet up on the desk at some point, just at the end of the show, just relaxing maybe. Mick Norton's, strange to say, I can't pick a definitive manufacturer. They're all much of a muchness in 2024. Isn't that a sad indictment? Now, I've thought about this. we were talking the other day. Jim Turner coined the phrase about the 22RB. He described it as a poetic machine. I can't think of a better way to describe it, but it is most certainly iconic. You look at the automotive industry today, unless you're going to go out and splash the cash on a supercar, a Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever it might be, pretty much every car on the road today looks exactly the same. I remember as a kid, and I'm not a petrol head, never have been, but back in the day, you could tell a machine by, in profile view, you could tell it from the grille at the front. You could even tell it by the lights on the back. You would know at an instant, at a glance, exactly what that machine is. And yet they're all so homogenized now. They all look exactly the same. Now, I realise there's a reason for that. I think they've reached peak innovation in terms of aerodynamics and everything else. But isn't that a sad thing? And I admit it. My first car was a VW Beetle. Most certainly not the best car ever made, but it had personality. It had character. How many cars have personality or character today? A Morgan, maybe, because it's hand built, but not much beyond that. And when you think about coming back to construction equipment, I think one of the things that marked out the early doors Cat D8, the D8H possibly, the 22RB, the Drott, some of those early JCB backhoe loaders, they had, it's such a hard thing to define, but they had a thing, they had a personality or a character. And I think over the years, we've whittled that out of the machine, out of the machine industry. Looking around here, there is, in front of me here, there's a vast hall. There's probably 400 exhibitors sat in front of me here. There's some fantastic machines out there, but do any of them have that personality? Don't think I've spotted much. Really don't. Let's go through here. We've done a lot of these, so I can skip all of that. People leaving and going back to work. Jim Turner says, I'd love to get out of full-time construction into machine development. The big boys seem to be falling short of the mark. Not this mark, but falling short of the mark, but because no one is offering anything different to the norm. Like Mick says, there's nothing to choose between most manufacturers. Yeah. And listen, I understand the reasoning behind that. When you actually scratch the surface, we were talking about badging the other day, but even beyond that, when you take a look at a lot of the machines here, a lot of them will have a Cummins engine or a Perkins engine or a Kubota engine at the smaller end. They'll have a ZF transmission. They'll have a Kawasaki pump. They're all basically built from the same components, just in a slightly different configuration. And then they are sold as a Komatsu, a Liebherr, or a Volvo, whatever it might be. There's very, very little to choose. And to be perfectly honest, the differentiation, that's why I'm excited by innovations like electrification, hydrogenization, and digitization, is the fact that we will once again have the opportunity to create machines that are individual, not individual to the individual, but individual in the way that they've absorbed technology and the way that they're embracing technology and the fuel systems that they're using to create something that is different. It may not be different for very long, because we all know how this works. If somebody adds a DVD player to their excavator, the next generation of their nearest rival will have a DVD player plus something else. That's the way it works. But I think we are very much looking around here. We're very much headed to a really exciting time. I'm glad I've stuck around for as long as I have. Because in terms of technology, in terms of electrification, hydrogenization, zero carbon and all that kind of thing, this is probably the most exciting time, period in my career in terms of new development. So yeah, I'm glad I've lasted as long as I have. I'm missing a few bits and pieces, but I'm glad I'm here. Mark, I'd be grateful for a link to the new OLED product you mentioned. I'll do two things with that, Mick. We probably won't get the video done until we get back to Blighty, but I will introduce you to Dennis Agnew over on LinkedIn. I'll let the two of you battle it out from there. There is a link, should you need it, if you'd like to know more about the absorption of Xwatch into the Hexagon empire. You can go and find that out. Thank you very much indeed to Lou Carney for sending that over. Andy Darvell is almost out the door. He's passing on his wisdom and the keys to his machine to a young guy. So good luck to the new guy, whoever he or she may be. Hope they're, well, listen, they've learned from a good teacher, so that's a pretty good starting point. But hope they have as good a time at Mick George as Andy Darvell has had. And hope Andy Darvell slots in. I'm sure he will, because AR Demolition are lovely. They really are. Just a lovely company. Least favourite. So, I said the question of the day was least favourite brand of construction equipment. And Dan Cullen quite surprised me. He said Doosan, Devilon. And then he said, sorry, I thought you said favourite. So he then came back and said, actually, least favourite is Sony, Hitachi and Volvo. Wow, I'm very, very surprised at that. Very, very surprised. Say hello to Luke and Christian when you get to the Trevi Benny stand for me. I most certainly will. Haven't seen Christian for bloody ages, so yeah, I'll be sure to pass that on for you. Christopher says, question of the day, a harder question than it seems. You only need one bad experience with a maker machine. It'll be rubbish in your eyes for years. I'll come back to that. Have you ever noticed that? I'm assuming some of you have got children. When you came to name your children, do you remember thinking, your wife says, I quite like the name, I've just seen her name, so let's go with Louise. I quite like the name Louise. How about we call our daughter Louise? And you think back at that one Louise that was an absolute bitch, and you think, no, can't be having that. That's exactly that. You have one bad experience with a make, and that's it. They're written off from there on in, aren't they? You're absolutely right. I'm going to carry on with that Crystal's point. After all the old machines I've driven, and the good and the bad, diabolical, no one brand really sticks in my mind. Maybe some of the early Japanese or Korean machines with build quality, but they were, on the most part, reliable and all right, yeah. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I have been around for an awful long time. I was here when the first Japanese mini and bigger excavators arrived. Late 80s, they arrived, and everyone, they're all square. The cabs are too small. They're built for little Japanese people. They rust prematurely and all that kind of thing. Give it a generation. Who makes the best excavators in the world? We have to say the Japanese are right up there. We had exactly the same with the Koreans. They're too small. They rust prematurely. They're a bit boxy to look at. Who makes some of the best excavators in the world now? It's the Koreans. The Chinese, yes, they're too small. They are built for little Chinese people, and they rust prematurely. Give it time, people. Give it time. If you see Daniel Linney on your travels, give him a hug from me, please. I'm not sure a hug from me would be quite the same as a hug from you, Lou, but if I spot him in the aisles, I'll creep up behind him and I'll give him a hug. And then later, when I wake up in hospital, I'll drop him a line to explain exactly why I did it. Andy Hare, thrown off the stand for taking a picture. They must be really busy with all the Chinese guys setting up their 3D scanners and getting their tape measures and micrometers out whilst crawling all over their latest machines. Yes. We actually saw a guy yesterday, and he may well have been Japanese, but we targeted this one guy. There was a guy stood on the Komatsu stand, little Asian fella, camera around his neck because it's part of the uniform apparently. And he was with his colleague, and he was pointing at this, and he was pointing at that, pointing up there, and he pointed down there. And I said to Fred, because Fred was stood beside me, I said to Fred, he is actually saying, copy that, copy that, copy that, because that's how it works. I've got a joke about that, if you'd like to see that. Have you seen my question of the day yet? Is it your question of the day? Is it your question of the day, or is it your answer for the question of the day? I'm not sure. Luke Carney says, Dan is a pussycat. Please do it. Amuse me. If I spot him, count me in. I will definitely do it. I'm with Jim. No need for 500 computers and machines just to do a day's work. Totally right. Used to be able to tell him by the sound of the engine in older cars, tractors, machines. All true. All true. So, many moons ago, back in the SED days, I don't know if anybody else remembers the SED, when it was at Whipsnade. Middle day of SED at Whipsnade. There used to be a dinner or in aid of the Lighthouse Club. The company I worked for, which was Reed Business Publishing at the time, they owned SED. They also owned Contract Journal and Plant Manager's Journal, which is where I was working at the time. So they had one of the top tables and everything else. And every year they had a comedian or a singer or a magician or whatever for the entertainment. And they had what were known back in the day. This was the 80s. It'd be unforgivable now, but they had a dance troupe called the Lighthouse Lovelies. Let's not dwell on that. Time has moved on. But 1 year, where was I going with this? Oh yes, 1 year. There was, I can't remember the guy's name, but we had a comedian on. And he was talking about, and this shows how long I've been around. This wasn't talking about the Chinese, this was talking about the Japanese. And the story goes as follows. Caterpillar have built a fantastic new, he didn't know the industry very well, but this is the way that he told the story. So Caterpillar has bought a brand new laser-guided crawler crane mounted on hover pads. It's as futuristic as it could possibly be, and it's being shipped around the world. The ship upon which it is travelling sinks. The first people on site are the Japanese, who recover both the ship and this fancy schmancy laser-guided, hover-mounted crawler crane, and they take it back to Tokyo. So, obviously Caterpillar, who have manufactured the crawler crane, I realise they never have, but they request very politely, could we have our crane back? No response. This thing escalates and escalates and escalates, and it ends up with a major international incident in which the US president ends up calling the premier over in Japan. And the story goes, he says, you have our crawler crane and we'd like it back. And the Japanese premier says, how many would you like? Going back to Andy Hare's point, yes, that's exactly how it works. Go and take a few photographs. You imagine that from how we are now. It used to be photographs. You now have the ability to scan a machine. You could basically scan anything that's here at this show, put it into a 3D printer to make a prototype, and then produce it. You could probably do that in a matter of a few weeks. Imagine that. Jim Turner says, my mate, apprentice at work, asked what the question of the day is every day, and it comes back after Snap. He's also the slack little twat that hasn't got around to doing the song. His answer was a Sani on the new JCB 9-ton dumpers. Yes, we do need to get the song done. I would very much appreciate that. But yeah, it's a strange thing. Obviously not at the moment because I'm not at home. But my wife asked me the night before I do a question of the day, what is the question of the day, so she can prepare her answer. Yeah. And you may recall that when I asked your favourite French dish, hers apparently came in a glass or a bottle. More a bottle, actually. Right, people, that is an hour and a half. Even in France, it's an hour and a half. We have exactly the same time system over here. So we've done an hour and a half. I think that's more than enough. So you go and do your thing. I'm going to go around and film some photographs. I'm going to look out for Mr. Leaney from X-Watch and give him a big girly hug, possibly a snog as well. That will really frighten him. If I spot him, I will most certainly do that. If anybody else has got any requests, we've got, where are we? What is today? It is Thursday today, so tomorrow is my last day. So if there are any machines that you would like us to go and pick up, then please let us know. Please let us know. Until tomorrow, people, go and have a fantastic day. I intend to. I'm going to go out in the sunshine in a minute. So yeah, go have a good day. I'll see you again. I'll be on time tomorrow. I won't be 5 minutes early. I'll be on time. Until then, everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Thanks for all your feedback. I'm going to look for, not just attachments, I'm going to look for stripped down machines just for Jim Turner. See what I can do. Until I see you all again, au revoir.